What's going on, y'all? This podcast is brought to you by Modern Roots Life. Modern Roots Life is a Christian-owned and operated company, and it's bringing real health back to its roots. They offer powerful, all-natural health supplements such as beef liver, cod liver oil, beef tallow, magnesium, and mineral-rich salts, all sourced the way God intended. Clean, simple, and from the earth. So whether you're looking to boost your energy, restore mineral balance, or just fuel your family with real nourishment, Modern Roots Life has got you covered. Guys, in this community, we're trying to get healthy in our mind, in our body, and our spirit. So don't neglect your health. If you want more information, check out modernrootslife.com and check the link in my description. You know, people often ask me how they can support me. Well, I think it's pretty cool if you can support me by supporting the people who support me, and you get something in return. And being healthy is a pretty good return. What's going on, y'all? Welcome back to the Ancient Roots of Life and Wellness podcast. This is episode number 28. And once again, I'm your host, JT. And as always, my co-host, Josh Truex of Modern Roots Life. What's going on, Josh?
Hey, guys. How are you, brother? Good to be here.
Doing good. I was just mentioning, of course, by the time you guys will see this episode, I likely will be in La La Land. So I'm heading out to Cali tomorrow morning, from Norfolk to Vegas to Cali. And I was discussing how the airlines and the flights, and it's so expensive to fly out there. So I could get a direct flight to Vegas. And there's quite a few podcasters there. I'm hoping to connect with somebody there. But then I'm going to rent a car and then I'm going to drive to California, which I said I've really only been set a foot in California, but I've never actually really hung out there and checked out the vibe.
Cali can be really cool. Just depends on what you're doing. You know, it's, I guess I would much rather prefer Vegas, but I did spend 20 years of my life in Vegas, so I guess that I do have a little bias to it. But California, I don't know. If you go to places in California, especially when you get up to like different mountains and some of the outdoor scenery and stuff like that, it's just like what we were saying before we went live is it's just sad that you get to see those cities in the state that they're in now. But I mean, you can still find a bunch of amazing stuff to do. And LA offers some. Obviously, if you're a foodie, it's really hard to deny the abundance of great food, especially like food that's not a fortune either, where you get like some of the street food, some of the kind of pop-in food and stuff that you can get there that has like really good clean options and stuff too. But some of them, when you just want to pig out too, they're really good to go to. So
yeah, what they always say, like that California is great except for all the Californians. The place is amazing, and I'm sure there's a lot of good ones, including Brian, who I'm going to try to hook up with while I'm there. He's I'm going out there kind of on business. I'm going out there to do a podcast out there, and Brian's about 40 minutes, I believe, from the guy I'm going to go do the podcast with. But I think, being kind of an outdoors guy, being fond of, like everybody, good scenery, mountains, the ocean, all that kind of stuff. Cali does seem like it's got it all when it comes to good weather and good scenery. And yeah, now that unfortunately the scenery is like poo on the streets and tent cities and just the degradation based on these corrupt governments that roll over that place and have taxed people, pushed a lot of the probably really good people out of the place. But that being said, there's lots of cool things I'm sure to see, including some old world buildings all over that place. The ones that really don't make a lot of sense if you really think about the timeline, as we always talk about the timeline being so short about the time that Americans got out west, and yet there's tons of Greco-Roman old world buildings all over California.
Some of it doesn't make any sense with the. Well, I mean, I guess we should just sum it up as that none of it's going to make
none of it makes sense.
The sense that we think it should. But still, it's like a lot of that stuff. It doesn't make any sense with their narrative. It's like, why are these things here at all? Period. And the fact that they're a monstrosity, that's even more plays into our favor for kind of the conversation of like what we're doing. And honestly, that to what you were just talking about before with the poo and stuff, man, you never thought that you would ever hear there's an app for that when it comes to the poo talk. It's crazy. But when I went out there during COVID, and worked in what's it called? San Francisco. It was everywhere. It was literally like I fortunately didn't have to deal with it, but it was rampant to where people were like, "Yeah, that's when that first app came out to tell you like where stuff is." But that city's probably the city that I feel like is so sad. It took it so bad. But yeah, there's if you go into I mean any kind of hiking, outdoor scenic type stuff is amazing. Like I said, cuisine, kind of food stuff is amazing when you get out there. The oceans, a lot of them. Obviously, they're not going to be the warmest beaches, but they offer some great surf and different things like that. And drives, some of them my favorite things to do because I've been a car guy and worked in cars for a long time. But like some of the best drives you can take is like Pacific Coast Highway and
Yeah,
different
yeah.
things like that.
I
So,
think it's
and
really cool, especially just being out east and how the beach is just a bunch of sand and it's all
yeah,
flat around here. I want to say you have to go pretty far north on the East Coast to find any kind of mountains on the coast.
there's
But
not a
like
lot
here,
of
it's
them.
just
Yep.
like flat as a pancake all around the whole coast. Probably from, I'm guessing like from New Jersey, New York, all the way to Florida. It's just flat as a pancake. But then you go out west and they get the cliffs and the rocks and all the stuff. And I've been to the west coast of Costa Rica and I've been to Cabo San Lucas,
Hmm.
both very beautiful places and have all that stuff. But no, I'm excited. You know what's interesting? As I talked about old world buildings and some of the stuff I'm very fond of too is the old world statues. And have you heard this story, Josh, that there's some kind of a tech billionaire who wants to build a giant Prometheus statue on the island of Alcatraz?
Why do I don't think it was that I heard that Prometheus name with. Wasn't that the biggest sales company in the world for retail and stuff like that. Isn't that what he's getting involved in? Is something that he's tied into with the Prometheus name or something they're doing now? But I
Well, I
didn't
mean,
think it was that.
Prometheus, I guess, is not an uncommon name, but
They just started something that, so I was thinking like that's not what you're talking about, but I think that's the only Prometheus thing I've heard about. But they're building like a shrine like type setup out there on.
so I'll share you this article here. It says, meet the tech executive hoping to magify Silicon Valley's skyline. And it says, it would be called the Great Colossus of Prometheus, the $420 million, 450-foot statue honoring the Greek mythological figure who rebelled against the gods and gave fire to humanity, rise over San Francisco Bay with a gas-powered flame in hand. The home of the Colossus, Alcatraz Island, set on the crumbling, long-shuttered federal penitentiary, now one of America's leading tourist destinations, attracting about 1.2 million people annually. Under this vision, an island which once housed infamous gangsters Al Capone, Whitey Bulger, would instead attract visitors with a lush gardens and a museum breakthrough technologies ranging from the telescope to the gene editing and AI.
Oh my goodness, look at that thing. Hey, make sure you have an In-N-Out burger when you go to Cali. I didn't want to forget to tell you
Okay, yeah,
that.
yeah.
Have you ever had one?
I believe I did. I believe I had one when I was in. Don't they have them in Vegas?
Oh yeah, for sure. All
Yeah, I
over
had one in
Vegas.
there. Okay, check this out. I did see somebody post this on X. How about that? Are you familiar with the mythologies about Prometheus, Josh?
He's not one that I'm familiar with for sure. This would be great if you even shared some of it.
Yeah, well, so Prometheus, famously, as I mentioned in the article, that he stole fire from the gods and gave it to man. And then he was punished for doing that. So again, you see he's got the torch, illumination. Was it really
Hmm.
fire or was it just knowledge?
Right.
So he could be connected to the literal devil, or he could be associated with the Watchers. That this god taught men things that they were not supposed to. He was not supposed to teach them.
Seems like the kind of OGs of those stories. You know what I mean? Like you always talk about either like pre-flood or post-flood, kind of like which kind of giants, which kind of Nephilim, which kind of angels are we talking about? Like at what stage? Is it the
Right.
Nimrod stage, or is it he almost to me seems like he would have come from like the originals, like kind of like the Eternals are depicted with Avengers.
Yeah, and the
Yeah.
Eternals end up interfering too much and then getting punished for it.
He's not in the story of who is it that's Zeus's brothers? There's Hades, Zeus, and
Hades and Poseidon are
Poseidon.
the
That's where
brothers
the
of
P-
Zeus.
Yeah, that was the other P that was going to trip me up right there. Yeah, so that's who I was thinking of. Because I was like, oh wait, isn't he the one that's in? Because Little Mermaid, man, that movie ties together so many of the deity names. It's mind blowing, especially when you get whatever her dad's name is.
Triton. Triton is
Triton.
Triton actually in the mythologies is a son of Poseidon.
Well, there you go. That's great.
Yeah, he's the son of Poseidon. Yeah,
I knew I was hearing like the same thing because I'm big into mythology. Don't want to claim to be like one who's memorized a lot of it, but love that stuff when it comes to the when anybody can like dissect it really well and break it down. I always nerd out on that. But of course, like the characters of Aquaman and that story and the whole half.
Yeah,
and,
Atlantis. And
again,
again,
think about go ahead.
Poseidon founded Atlantis.
Yeah, so there's that part of it. Okay, so wait, so Poseidon is we're talking about Prometheus. Okay.
Yeah.
So
yeah, well, I'll have to read some of it. I did pick up. Actually, let's just go to this before I do the comparison of Prometheus and the devil, because I think that's a pretty interesting one.
That'd be really cool.
Yeah, let me see. Let's see, what does it say? Let's read the mythology surrounding Prometheus before I bias it completely. Okay, it says, in Greek mythology, Prometheus is a Titan. So he's a Titan. So he's before Zeus.
Yep.
That's interesting. Responsible for creating or aiding humanity in its earliest days. He defied the Olympian gods by taking fire from them and giving it to humanity in the form of technology, knowledge, and more generally, civilization. In some versions of the myth, Prometheus is also credited with the creation of humanity from clay. He is known for his intelligence and being a champion of mankind, and is also generally seen as the author of human arts and sciences. He's sometimes presented as the father of, was it Deucalion? I know, that was bad. The hero of the flood story.
Mm-hmm.
The punishment of Prometheus for stealing fire from Olympus and giving it to humans is the subject of both ancient and modern culture. Zeus, king of the Olympian gods, condemned Prometheus to eternal torment for his transgression. Prometheus was bound to a rock, and an eagle, and the emblem of Zeus, was sent to eat his liver. In ancient Greece, the liver was thought to be the seat of human emotions. His liver would grow back overnight, only to be eaten again the next day in an ongoing cycle. According to several major versions of the myth, most notably that of Hesiod, Prometheus was eventually freed by the hero Hercules. And the struggle of Prometheus is located by some on Mount Elbrus and also Mount Kazbek, two volcanic promontories in the Caucasus Mountains beyond the ancient Greeks lay the realm of Barbary.
Barbary.
And it says what it says. In another myth, Prometheus establishes the form of animal sacrifice practice in ancient Greece religion. Oh, that's interesting. Evidence of the cult of Prometheus himself is not widespread. He was the focus of religious activity, mainly in Athens, where he linked to Athena and Hesperus, who were Greek deities of creative skills and technology. His etymology is unknown, possibly meaning forethought. In Western classical traditions, Prometheus became a figure who represented human striving, particularly the quest for scientific knowledge, and the risk of overreaching or unintended consequences. In particular, he was regarded in the Romantic era as embodying the lone genius whose efforts to improve human existence could also result in tragedy. Mary Shelley, for instance, gave the modern Prometheus as the subtitle to her
Wow.
novel Frankenstein.
Mm.
So what does it say? His parents are Asia or Clemine and Epitus. I'm not familiar with those parents.
That seems really like almost like it kind of unfolded. Can you pull that back up real quick?
Yeah.
Oh, taking fire. Like as you said, you're like, was it really fire? It, immediately starts to say in the form of technology, knowledge, and
Yeah.
more generally civilization. But thinking of that, then thinking of literally like Azazel or, even who was it? Was it Samael or no?
Semyaza.
Semyaza is the one that like, isn't he the one that Azazel and him like seem very, or was it Godriel that seemed very similar? In what they
Well,
had?
it seems like Semyaza is the leader, but Azazel is the focal point and the scapegoat. So that seems weird to me. Like, I don't know. It does seem like, I want to say that Gary Wayne conflates the two, saying they could be the same. But I mean, the text seems to indicate that they're different because he's like, Semyaza is mentioned to be the leader. But it doesn't really mention what happens to Semyaza afterwards. I guess we could assume that he'd be bound with all the other Watchers. But it's funny that like Azazel is mentioned by name. He's told by, who was it, Raphael, to bind him hand and foot.
Mm-hmm.
So why didn't they bind Semyaza?
Right. It seems like him taking that too. He takes it from Olympus, like, he's like from the garden, from like the knowledge of there. And he takes things from like basically like heaven, more or less, and gives it to them. All these different things that because that's what they translate everything from the heavens, same way as above, as below, in like multiple ways. But it's like Heracles, like the way you spell Hercules there. Is that it's like.
It's sort of interesting because I want to say that the one thing I was confused about this Greek mythology, that I thought the Titans were before the Olympians, right? Like the Titans were like the giants. So an example of a Titan would be Kronos, Saturn, who was the father of Zeus, Poseidon, and Hades. So he's their father. So a Titan would have been something.
Ones, or would you call them like beginning of Nephilim genes?
The way I saw it would be like the Titans were more powerful gods than the Olympians were. They were like more like primordial gods, and they so again, Saturn is the father of Zeus.
So you think he's the fallen angel? That's kind of what I'm asking.
Yeah, the way I see it is the Titans were before the Olympians. And so I'm thinking, like, in my mind, were the Olympians post-flood fallen angels, and then the pre-flood fallen angels, the ones who are in Tartarus. I mean, that's literally in the story of Greek mythology, is the Titans were locked up in Tartarus.
Mm-hmm.
So to me, that's like, those were your Watchers from the Book of Enoch. The ones who were already awaiting judgment, but they were in hell, basically.
Yeah, it seems like they exactly what it was saying about Prometheus. They take knowledge, same as what we would see with, Azazel and the 200 Watchers that conspired on Hermon, and then gave it to people, and then they had their binding and things like that too. It really is sometimes hard to figure out the trickiness of the lineage too. That was really hard for me in the beginning when you were dissecting mythology. I guess you have to first figure out the first layer of mythology is realizing that it's all the same mythology with a bunch of layering of names. And, it's from this Babylonian mythology versus, like from the Norse to this and that. And then you just have to figure out their kind of godhead, that they have, or kind of their trinity. I mean, that's really where I think that name comes from. Not to take anything away from the three of the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit, you know what I mean? I just think that like that actual name was like the original branding. I think the only thing is like with the pagan kind of stuff, when they actually say trinity, it would involve a mother god, whereas
I want to say that in their mythologies you have this god of chaos as like the first god. So if you think about like the biblical story, like everything's void. It's just like chaotic. And then God establishes an order to things.
Right.
Now, what the mother god in the Greek and Roman mythology is Gaia.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like Mother Earth. So the Earth is the mother of all the things that live here. And so eventually I want to say that chaotic god, I want to say, yeah, I think it might have been the chaotic god in the Earth created these primordial gods.
Mm-hmm.
Like kind of like, think like Godzilla maybe, kind of monsters or something. I mean, it's really weird. I mean, again, we're not saying any of this is true, but then I think that eventually, yeah, Gaia and Saturn had children, and those were your Olympians. But Saturn was eating all of them because he didn't want any of them to take over. So he was killing all of them. But eventually, Zeus, I think, gets out somehow out of the womb without being killed. Oh no, he swallows them, and he survives. I don't know. It's weird. It's weird. The whole thing is weird. But yeah, I want to say that there's a mother god and there's a god of chaos, and then there's Titans. But then the Olympians are later. And I've always I think this is biblical. I think that Zeus is the devil, biblically. That's my assumption. Again, that's just a guess. But just connecting with Revelation, saying the throne of Satan, Pergamos, that's where the altar to Zeus was. Apollo being the sun, Abaddon, Apollyon being in the pit, the dragon giving his authority over to him. So Apollo being the son of Zeus. So that's, from my understanding, would have been like everything that we would have heard about this new pantheon would have been post-flood. Because the Bible doesn't really talk about the gods before the flood other than the book of Enoch. And then, of course, they're Hebrew names. They're not what the Greeks would have called them.
I always wonder too. It's like, is there part of that like a retelling? Do they kind of take the same pre-flood story, and some of it in like the post-flood world seems to be like a retelling of a sorts? You know, because like Zeus, if he's Satan, you can see how like in the post-flood world, pre-flood, like with mythology and like their cataclysms where they talk about their stuff and everything like that, it seems like, I don't know, it seems like you could tie that character. Either it's like parallel to another character, because sometimes it seems like it does that, where they do that especially a lot in history. We're seeing things like King Arthur being mirrored to, to other people, Attila the Hun, things like that. But I always wondered if some of it was like just rebranding, how they just basically like kind of say certain stuff from the pre-flood world, refashion it from the post-flood story. But a lot of it really does seem, I always thought Titans were like the first things that you see with like the Kraken and different things that they talk about. And
yeah, I think that those, again, I think those are like primordial monsters. But I want to say that in the Greek mythology, there was this monster called Typhoid, and he was like the one that everyone was scared of. And I want to say that he was born between maybe Kronos and Gaia again. So it's like really weird. Like, yeah, that this monster being that I want to say that you could make a pretty close correlation between Typhoid, I think I'm saying his name right, and the Leviathan.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he's just this monstrous, fire-breathing, primordial beast who's like really just can't be controlled. And that's kind of what Leviathan's described as by, the book of Job.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, that's interesting.
And all the other gods in the Greek mythology were scared of Typhoid.
That's pretty interesting too. You know a lot more about it than I do. I know like the basics with like certain stuff, but a lot of those things like really help you to kind of take certain things, not to like directly say that we're trying to tie it to scripture, like line for line kind of thing. But some of those crossovers, especially when you get into like Hercules, Samson, other things like that, there's some ones that are too uncanny.
Yeah, 100%. These stories are mythologies that are passed down. And you could imagine again, like with the Tower of Babel, the confusion of the languages and the different people's different perspectives on the stories. That's why that they're close-ish, right? They're close-ish. You have that God separates the nations. He separates the peoples, the nations amongst the number of the sons of God. And then so all these different princes are over these principalities, these different nations. And so you could imagine one of these false gods telling them a different perspective on these stories, telling their priests, and then the priests telling the people. But I also think that there's something you can't discount is the idea that the priestly and the royal class in these societies, we're not telling the people the full story. You know what I mean? Because
Yeah.
like I think that like you can imagine like still today that religion is used as some kind of control mechanism.
Right.
So they're telling them the story from a perspective to obviously get them to stay in line. And it could
And
be more fantastical. But like I said, I always think it's interesting that in these other mythologies that they don't try to whitewash these gods. They're always forms of some kind of bad. Like the Olympians are really bad, most of them. They got these massive character flaws, including Zeus, who's supposed to be one of the good ones. He's a philanderer. He's got many bastard children with women, not godly women. I mean, I'm not saying godly women, but like not goddesses, but with people, like real humans. And then he's created all these kinds of different demigods.
The pictures alone of the deities and stuff are say it all. Because I mean, the way that the people who painted those depict them is not good stuff. I mean, a lot of it has like to do with children and different stuff like that. Sarah, like when she went to DC the first time, was mortified.
Yeah, it's weird.
She got there, as soon as she got there, she was just like, "What in the world? You grew up here? Like, you went down here all the time? What is this place? It's on all the buildings on the outside." I'm like, "Yeah, babe, that's how it is, you know." And then you go inside. We started going inside the buildings and looking up at all the murals and all the paintings and everything on the ceilings. And she's like, "That's disgusting." You can full on see it, and you could tell some of them are like graphic drawings and depictions of like gods, you know, and deities and stuff, like doing certain acts and things like that too. So, it kind of to your point of these things aren't even with what they did with like the, you know, opening ceremony for the Olympics and stuff.
Oh yeah, we have Dionysus, the god of wine and debauchery. He's like the god of he's like the god of theater, the god of like parties and stuff like that. And yeah, he's a real corrupt douchebag god. But yeah, I mean that's the thing. It's like that. He's kind of like almost like a Pan character.
Yeah.
Where he had kind of like these, again, this debaucherous kind of party of people going through the woods and getting drunk and doing all kinds of salacious activities. And yeah, then they were involved with like satyrs and stuff. But he's not depicted as having like half goat like Pan is. But like his characteristics are very similar. It's really again, I don't know. I find all the mythology stuff interesting, but yeah, like when it comes down to it, a lot of these really weirder gods are always connected to fertility and stuff like that. Where you're like, oh, the goat god is, oh, gross.
Yeah,
it's always weird. Yeah, so like when you connect them with these other, I don't know, like again, like how they're depicted with like naked women around or children, it's really gross. It's obscene.
Yeah, a lot of it, you don't even want to like come across to like have you think about stuff because some of it's like right there. You're just like looking at it, and it's just exactly they're exposing you to exactly like what they want you to think. But I mean, it makes sense why there was a lot of that stuff ran rampant, like stuff with animals and different things all around the world. There was a lot of that you see back there. Part of it, you'll just look at a map and kind of gloss over it and ignore it, but then you'll go back over it like years later and look and go, my goodness, like what is that a picture of? That's horrible. And
it's really weird. I said a lot of the places I went, because I've been doing a lot more boots on the ground stuff. So I went to the Henry Flagler mansion, and so Flagler was a very famous man. I think he was like John D. Rockefeller's like right hand man, and so he had a house in Palm Beach. But supposedly they were going to name all of Miami after Flagler. That's what they were going to originally call it. It was him who decided he did not want it called Flagler. Otherwise, that's what the city would have been called. And so anyways, I went to his mansion there, supposedly his mansion. And yeah, and all these old mansions. So that one, the Biltmore Estate, and some of these other ones I've been to, they're always depicting Pan, like with statues and murals and stuff. And you're like, why would you want that on your wall? Or why would you want a
Yeah.
statue of that? Because all his characteristics are basically evil. Like
Mm-hmm.
Brian always brings up like the idea of kidnapping. So what is a kid? A kid is a small goat.
Yeah, small goat, right?
And so he's saying like kind of like Brian always compares it to like alien abductions. When you say alien abductions, you're in your mind, you're not picturing people stealing aliens. You're thinking of
Right, right.
aliens stealing people, kidnapping
Mm-hmm.
them. So when you
Yep.
hear kidnapping, it's not that kids are being taken. The kids are doing the taking because it's the children of the goat who are doing it.
Mm.
And I'm like, yeah, it's really messed up because it is interesting. And I'm sure a lot of people do that without even thinking about it, just call their own children kids, but they're not kids. It's
Yep.
weird.
Yeah. Spell casting, all that stuff that it really is. You can go pretty far with that when you start doing all the play on words and everything. But it really, I mean, everything that roots back and you just in your mind go, why is anything designed the way that anything is designed as? Because, this isn't like we're in the beginning days. We're not like going back like, oh, Adam and Eve were 2,000, like 1,000 years ago, 2,000 years ago. It's like we know that no matter how much time has actually transpired, like in this world, it's been a long time since Adam and Eve. So it's vastly different now. The whole mechanics of the world and everything are vastly different than back then.
Well, it's kind of like
So,
I always bring up what Solomon says, with much knowledge is much vexation, with much wisdom is much sorrow. So it is like the things that you learn, you're like, man, we were once naive to lots of this stuff.
yeah.
But then when you start to actually learn it, it's like it's not always pleasant. And sometimes you're
Mm-mm.
better off never knowing any of the stuff about any of these wicked gods and all these mythologies. But at the same time, it kind of ties back into Prometheus. And maybe I'll read kind of the similarities in a second. But it kind of makes sense too, is that I always thought about it like this, is that like what would have happened to humanity if the serpent was not in the garden? What would have happened if the Watchers would not have ever came down to Mount Hermon and then eventually corrupted man further? It might have been somewhat similar that man would have slipped up. But the truth is, the way the story goes is that the serpent is the one, he's the instigator. And then you think later with the Watchers, it's like, it's not that man was perfect. He was obviously sinless before that. But he didn't even know he didn't even know all the ways he could sin until somebody told him. And said it's the very same way that you have some adult show some child something that they never would have came up with on their own. And how accountable, like Christ says, like it'd be better if they were never born if you did something like that to a child. And so I think that's kind of like the story is like that the angels are showing humanity who's innocent all the wicked ways they can to mess up. And so, yeah, like that's kind of like the way the story goes is that the more you learn about some of these things, again, it's not always pleasant.
No, it's daunting. It's I don't know. It's really intrusive too, because once some of them, it really is opening up a big can of worms. It's just this downward spiraling of like everything that opens up because some of them are connected to so many other things that when you are exposed to one of them, it ripples out very fast. You start to see this is connected to that, that's connected to that, and you start to realize, or it's just a fact that maybe you meet the right person who Abba has given the right seed and watering pot for. And then when it waters those seeds that are in you, like 4 or 5 of them start to sprout at the same time. Battle of the kids. I don't even know if mine's still back here. Nope, she went out.
Um. Anyways, you want me to read from the list of the similarities between Prometheus and the devil?
Yeah, let's hear it. I really want to hear that.
Okay, but before I do, Josh, why don't you please tell us about Modern Roots Life?
Hey guys, Modern Roots Life is a faith-based company. We're all about you guys, so we don't charge for coaching or consults. You can, even if you don't get our products, if you guys have questions about your health journey or if you just have something that you need to find somebody that'll give you an honest answer, you can ask us that. We also have everything that you would ever get from us It's lab tested. We wanted to make sure that you guys are getting a product you could trust, one with no fillers, no synthetics. We're also expanding now to where we're trying to get our product line into stores near you. So be praying for us, because in the next 6 to 12 months, I hope that I have all of our products made through an established FDA GMP certified facility, which will allow us to legally, with all of the hoops these days, to go through into any store. So if you have a local store to you and a place that would cover an area and you have a suggestion, could you guys write us on the website? Because we're going to be looking into the main markets and stuff like that. But a lot of you have requested this. I was against it for a long while because I had some kind of standards that we were following, but I think we found a way to kind of fix both of them. So I'm happy to announce that you guys will, in the next few years, hopefully in every market across America, we should be able to have our products there to where you could just go pick them up in the store, and you guys, just like anything else you guys use, you'll be able to go get your favorite product from us just in your local store. So thank you guys for all your love and support.
Yeah, that'd be amazing. Absolutely. That's cool. Of course, like I got my cat is trying to get in on the cat's interested in this Prometheus study. Let's take a look at this. So I asked ChatGPT a while back what the connections between the two. So check this out. So it says, so I said, what are the links between the biblical devil and Prometheus? And it says, there are striking thematic parallels between the biblical Satan and the Greek Titan Prometheus, but they are not identical and don't come from the same theological worldview, of course. And it says, the similarities come from the shared ancient Near Eastern Mediterranean myths and patterns. Okay, blah, blah, blah. Okay, both are rebellious figures who defy the high god. Prometheus defies Zeus, steals fire from heaven, gives forbidden power to mankind, is punished for challenging divine authority. Biblical Satan rebels against God, tempts humans, forbidden knowledge, leads humanity into disobedience, is punished, restrained, and defeated. Okay, so it also says, both are associated with bringing knowledge to humans. Prometheus gives fire, symbol of technology, enlightenment, civilization, crafts, math, writing, and later some myths. The serpent gives knowledge of good and evil, moral awareness. Your eyes shall be opened. You know, if you think about like the eye that we always talk about, the one eye is symbolic of knowledge. Obviously, both are divinely punished. And then because of them bringing knowledge or whatever technology, it causes suffering, enters the human condition, a breakdown between humans and the high god. So that's the real issue here. Okay, it says both are punished and imprisoned. Prometheus is chained to a rock, which that's kind of interesting to think about, like the Statue of Liberty with the chain around the ankle.
That's interesting.
And obviously the Statue of Liberty is also carrying a torch, fire.
True.
Eagle eats his liver, stuck between heaven and earth, released only by a future hero, Hercules. Okay, Satan is cast down, restricted from God's presence, symbolically chained in Revelation. I don't know if he's symbolically chained. That's ChatGPT's. Could be physically. Final imprisonment is the abyss in the lake of fire. Okay, Prometheus' punishment in Greek mythology strongly mirrors the symbolic punishments of the rebellious angels in Enoch, Revelation, and 2 Peter 2:4, angels in chains. It said both are adversarial figures to the ruler of heaven. Prometheus versus Zeus. He openly mocks and defies and outwits Zeus. Satan versus God. He opposes God's will, accuses God's people, and acts as an adversary. So both are divine opponents. Both become symbols of human suffering and struggle. Later in literature, was it Aeschylus, Shelley, and Goethe see him as a champion of humanity, a symbol of human progress versus tyranny, a tragic rebel. In later literature, Milton and Romantic poets sometimes depict Lucifer as a rebel against authority, a symbol of human independence, and a tragic adversary. Yeah, I want to say in that book Paradise Lost, where you kind of get the idea where they connect Lucifer to the devil, he's like seen as a tragic figure. He's like not really a bad guy. It's kind of like what they do in the movies now. You have all these anti-heroes. They're not really bad. They're just, they're just not good. Both are linked to the motif of stolen heavenly gifts. Across the Near Eastern myth, a divine being steals something heavenly, gives it to humans, is punished. Humans suffer. Examples: Enki in Sumerian, Prometheus in Greek, the Watchers in First
Yep.
Enoch, the Serpent in Genesis 3. So yeah, I mean, I guess that's the
The gist of
main.
it. Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty much. It's kind of repeating the same thing, but yeah, it's pretty interesting. Yeah, that I mean, of course, that's what you would connect immediately is that you have this man holding a torch versus a man wearing a gown on on Liberty Island, which that's what people say is like that. And that's the thing. I guess that's the thing that I think trips people up too. It's almost like that the devil has many names. He likely has many forms. And so is this how he appeared to the ancient peoples? Or did he take
Hmm.
credit for giving knowledge? You know what I'm saying? Like, I guess that's the kind of thing. So the devil was the first to give knowledge. And so that could just be symbolic of, yeah, him giving power to people, knowledge and awareness of morality so they could be like gods. And then later, yeah, it's the same. It's similar to the same story, but I guess there's just a typology that makes sense. But yeah, the Greeks didn't get this story not from the real story.
Yeah.
It's a twist. It's a different perspective on this story.
Yeah, they always have their adulteration of the truth. I was going into that like when we first started pulling up because like the identical parallels from the flood of Hebrew is Noah, Mesopotamia is Unapishtim, yeah, Unapishtim. And then the Greek has Deucalion and Pura escapes Zeus's flood. In the bridge, it's the same structure, same sequence, divine wrath, chosen survivor. Then it's the Watchers. You got it in the Hebrew, Greek, Sumerian, and in the bridge. They have all these, and that's the big thing. Everybody uses that too. With like saying like Horus is the real Messiah type character, and that's why Jesus and Messiah is not the truth, and it's just a fabrication. But in reality, you could see it so evidently how Satan was like plugging in his characters, assuming those roles. That also to me just shows how powerful the prophecy was that if he could keep doing that, that means the whole world pretty much was kind of believing in some kind of coming for a Messiah character of some sort.
Yeah, it's interesting too. So there also is a very famous Prometheus statue currently. It's in Rockefeller Center, right over
Mm,
in New York City. It's almost like what is this? What is this wheel thing that he's in?
yeah, that's Ezekiel Wheels like.
Yeah, it's like a wheel. It's kind of funny how in the movie we talked about the Eternals. Eventually, they get put in these kind of gold circles,
Because
kind
the
of bound
Ophanum
in
in
these.
scripture, that's the wheels that are supposedly they seem like kind of like the chariots almost that
Yeah, the
carry
wheels
around the
inside
angels.
wheels.
Yeah, so like I wonder if even the fallen ones, like, does he have his own wheel? Like, would that be like maybe a thing? Like the angels have their kind of like cruisers in a way, like some of them go around on the Ophana, and it's like a class of angels that carries them around or something. It's just interesting that he has that on there, and it's
I
very
mean,
reminiscent.
I think it's pretty easy correlation though to tie him to the Statue of Liberty though, because like why else would this being with a torch have a chain around its ankle?
Yeah, I know. You can go with the whole like Libertaeus or like all the other deities that people tie it to and say it. But it,
But come on, that's
yeah.
not. You telling me that's not what the Statue of Liberty is really about?
That looks. I mean, that's the first time I've heard anybody like tie it like that, and it just seems like that's. I mean, is there any other ones of their deities in their mythology that have this kind of depiction, chained to a big rock? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I'd have to look further into Inky because that's interesting. That Inky was kind of did the same thing. He was said to have given knowledge to people, and he got punished for it too. There's an eagle eating his liver. His liver grows back every day, and then the eagle eats it every day.
Yeah, that was an interesting thing that threw in there. The myth itself, Prometheus bound to the rock, Greek source. I could just share this since we're on that kick.
Yeah, so let's read about Enki. It says Enki is one of the most important figures in the ancient Near Eastern religion. He sits right at the center of why Prometheus, the serpent, and the biblical fallen angel traditions resemble each other so strongly. And it says, who is Enki? Enki is Akkadian. Name is Ea, god of wisdom, god of fresh water, god of craftsmanship, magic, knowledge, divine architect of civilization, teacher of humanity, a trickster, but usually benevolent. Guys, you can't help but see that and think, this is what the Freemasons are talking about when they're talking about their grand architect.
Yeah, no joke. You know what that makes me think of? EA Sports.
Yeah, I know.
It's in the game. When you think about it's in the game, like you think about like Enki Sports, it could almost feel like saying Enki Sports or Enki's this, Enki's that. Because Akkadian EA,
Yeah.
that's wild.
What does EA Sports logo look like?
Akkadian. Every time I hear that, it makes me think of that place, Acadia in Canada.
Let's see. Let me stop sharing. I mean, I could kind of see it here with the way that it's presented. I mean, the EA. I mean, it definitely looks like a mountain. Enki's mountain. Okay, it says Enki's core archetype. He's the divine rebel who gives forbidden help to humans. He doesn't overthrow the gods outright, but he repeatedly violates divine restrictions to protect humanity. He warns humanity of divine punishment, gives knowledge and tools, defies a higher power, protects mankind, brings civilization, acts against a divine council. Yeah, that sounds like the devil for sure. Okay, Enki is often associated with serpent imagery, dragons, and water serpents.
And it says Ninis like Ningish Zeta or whatever.
Ningish Zeta is Enki's emissary, a snake god.
And then you think about how like what is it, Third Baruch, and is it the Apocalypse of Abraham or Moses? And it talks about how the serpent was it Azazel or Samael?
Oh, it says Godriel.
Yeah, Godriel feeding him grapes in the garden. And then like that's what it was. Third Baruch talked about the vine that it showed it, and then to Baruch was like, "What is this?" And he said, "This is the vine that Noah took, and after the flood, he found it and planted it, and it was the same vine from the garden or something like that."
Well, it's kind of interesting that it says that Enki's emissary is a snake, so it's like his messenger. Well, you kind of really think about it. It's kind of like that. So when God sends the angel of the Lord, it's like God is showing up in the form of an angel. You know, God's not an angel, but I guess, again, we see an angel as a being, but like an angel is like a duty. So it's like if God is delivering a message, then this is God's angels delivering this message to people. So that's kind of how it is. It's like the devil is his normal form is not a snake, but his emissary is a snake. So he sends his snake to, and so for all intents and purposes, it is him because he's speaking through this snake.
He is.
That's like his
Agent
angel.
Smith.
He sent his angel, who's a snake, to go speak to Adam and Eve.
Yeah, the real word is messenger. I mean, for when you look up angel in the Hebrew and Greek, the word is messenger, so it makes perfect sense. He's literally sending a messenger. Just pretty interesting that it would say that his sidekick is a snake god. And then I was just like thinking like, well, Satan kind of like went into the snake in the garden and like he did with Judas, right? I mean, it's
right.
It's not the only time we see that it wasn't just like it was him, but it's kind of like Agent Smith from the Matrix. And the Matrix,
yeah, right. Is it like he's all of a sudden the snake starts to flicker
well,
out?
And there he is. Yeah.
Well, yeah. I mean, I guess it's the same way like that. These angels are spirits.
Mm-hmm.
So isn't it kind of weird to think about that? It's like that it mentions more than one time that an angel is a spirit.
Right.
So how does it take a physical form? Is it a situation where they are like Agent Smiths and they took somebody over? I mean, you really wouldn't think God's angels would need to do that, but I mean, it is strange like that they can just materialize physically if they want to, but I mean, from the demonic perspective, it does seem like that those angels wouldn't care about humanity, so they would just enter somebody and they'd be speaking through somebody, right? So they could easily do it to animals. they want to.
That's all in the movies, where you see like somebody will hit, like Harry Potter's big on that, where like somebody gets kicked and then like the ghost comes out of there, like the spirit comes out of them forward, like they get hit, but it doesn't fully separate.
Oh, that's like in Doctor Strange too, when the Ancient One knocks Doctor Strange out of his astral body, out of his physical body.
I think Avengers had that with the one dude, Eternals. Was it Avenger? Not Eternals, Apocalypse. With the one guy, and he did the whole like ritual in the beginning to like get back into body.
They take the Apocalypse's spirit and stick it in this guy who looks like a pharaoh, maybe, and then he appears. Yeah. Well, it's funny too in Harry Potter. Do you know, like, right when Harry Potter realizes he's different than everyone else, he talks to a snake.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, they're at like the zoo, and he talks to the snake.
Oh yeah, he did talk to the snake. I remember. And then he was like, "What the heck?" Like through there, and like, hell yeah, when he messed with his cousin or whatever it was.
It's all connected. No, but how about that? So these technocrats, these tech billionaires, they want to put up a 450-foot statue. That's way bigger than the Statue of Liberty.
How big is the Statue of Liberty?
Let me see. I want to say that. Let me look that up exactly. I don't want to guess because I'm probably going to be wrong.
Stratosphere in Vegas is 1,200, if I'm not mistaken. So to say that it's just shy of half that is massive.
Okay, so the Statue of Liberty is 151 feet. I think it's from the ground to the torch, it's 305 feet. I guess because that base is so big. But they want to make this Prometheus statue 450 feet tall. For one single statue. I was gonna maybe save this for JT's mixtape, but this fits. I think this might be, or this was the biggest statue in the world when they created it, supposedly. I think there's a bigger one in China now, but there's this wild one in Russia.
The Mother's Call Monument, the largest statue in the world. Supposedly, they built this in 1967. The size of this statue is the size that I would think a real-life Titan would be. It's bigger than the Statue of Liberty. It's basically a football field tall. The mainstream narrative is that this was to commemorate the casualties of the Battle of Stalingrad. I tried finding construction photos of this statue because they say that it's made out of concrete and they made a cast and poured all the cement into the cast to build this thing, so I tried to look for construction photos. And lo and behold, in every single photo, the statue is already erect. Like they try to trick us with these people on the fingers. There's no photos of the actual construction. And my final thought is, with this statue being in Russia, why would they have made the tallest statue in the world a female? They didn't even give women equal rights until 1917. You're gonna tell me 40 and some change years later, they're like, let's make the biggest statue of a woman. It's Russia. That's weird.
What is that statue supposed to be of? Because
I think it's supposed to be symbolic of the motherland. So is that a big Gaia statue? Of course, it's Mother Russia, right? That's what it's supposed to be about. And Stalingrad. But it is kind of weird to say that you're going to make a statue symbolic of this battle that was super horrific, and you're not going to depict a soldier on there. You're going to depict a woman with a sword.
Yeah, with a very peculiar abdomen.
Yeah, she yeah, it's kind of funny to even think about it. So if the narrative is this thing is made of concrete and was poured, why would you need all that scaffolding around there? Wouldn't you just kind of need to like just get it there and lift it up?
Yeah, I know.
If it was all poured, right?
It would have come in sideways and then just been lifted up, right?
Yeah, and you just had to set it in place. It is funny, that it is comical, because that's always the case where you have this scaffolding to show supposedly construction happening, but then it's typically construction around a full building. And they're like, see, we're building it. You're like, it's already built. We want to see how you actually set everything in place.
And
you're actually showing a full building.
Stop vanilla skying me and hit me with all that stuff over there. And they're like, oh yeah, we take all that out and But you know, I'd be curious. I'd be curious to see is if we went back on some more ancient maps and found where that is supposed to be, that statue, and then saw like some other places that it like was in beforehand, like who used to possess those lands and stuff. If that thing is, you know, old, then you wonder. It almost seems like it has that same kind of material as the Statue of Liberty in a way.
Speaking of ancient maps, I actually did. Somebody shared this with me on X. Why don't you check this out, Josh?
Whoa!
Check it out. You got Poseidon over here riding a like a dolphin or something, or a whale.
Yeah.
And so yeah, look, isn't that interesting? It looks like the western part of America is into sea.
Yeah.
Right, and then so.
Why
looks like you can go all the way down from India. I wonder if that's connecting like Australia and Antarctica.
Is it mirrors the North America like a whale or a wildebeest or something where its head is up top there, like reaching out towards the Atlantic? You see that? Where it's like an eye up there, a mouth, and
yeah, a little bit.
Weird.
But I mean, yeah, but that's interesting because we've been talking about that before. That what if part of the West Coast was underwater? Because that's what some of it looks like it had been.
It's pretty. Even when you were just talking earlier about the coast of the Atlantic versus the Pacific and how vastly different they are, it makes you think about that whole thing. California being an island, and like if it was, what was the thing? And it's pretty interesting too when you think about that. They used to in the maps it shows the sea between California as an island and the coast being the Vermilion Sea, which is the brightest shade of red. You think about like a lot of people who talk about the America's Egypt and the Promised Land type thing. That was like a point that a lot of people would use, but it just makes you wonder, like, if it was like that, did something shift with some great earthquake? You know, I always talk about the transcontinental drift theory, and did it happen back in 70 AD and shove those things kind of into a different place? That's wild. I've never seen North America depicted like that. I don't think ever.
No, that's interesting. It says the French National Archives recently released digital copies of ancient maps from 1556. One of the atlases created almost 3 centuries before Antarctica was officially discovered clearly shows it outlines ice-free with rivers and mountains in the interior. That's not all. The southern continent is connected to Eurasia as if it was a single landmass.
The North Pole area right there is pretty wild. How
a lot of land up there.
And it's like a cove, you know what I mean? It looks like kind of like a big lagoon up there, and how stuff goes up into it.
This whole thing does not make a lot of sense, like historically. This is pretty mapped. This looks pretty mapped out well, for the most part. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
like
we recognize it. Yeah, our
you can definitely tell like exactly what you're looking at. It's
New
different,
Zealand,
but it's the
over
same.
There is crazy. You see that? That's what most mind blowing to me. It's like Australia region over there attaching to Asia, basically through like what would that be? The Polynesian Islands and Indonesia and everything over there.
Well, like Indonesia, I was talking about that the other day. Indonesia is really big. I want to say that there is there as many people in Indonesia as there is in America, something like that. But if you took the Indonesian islands and you stretch them out over the continental United States, it's bigger.
Whoa, I've heard like Madagascar being as big as the UK and things like that, but I've never ever heard anything.
Let me
about
see.
That I'd love to see that depiction.
But you see that? Look, if you see all the way out to here, look how big those islands are.
But man, Indonesia, that is mind blowing because they just show them as like some little
it's kind of just a throwaway little islands.
Yeah, little insignificant you.
But you know what else I want to look at? I think that there's something really interesting about the idea that Australia was connected. Of course, this podcast has gone completely off the rails as far as what we were talking about before. But I think it's fine. I think it's fine. I think it was natural. I think there's these wild cliffs, like Cliff Coast, Australia. I want to say this is the southern coast of Australia. You ever seen that, Josh?
That stuff in Australia is mind blowing. You know what I would like to see? How they take all that rock right there, and how they do that with like England and New England and all the what is it called? The
just look at that, dude. Does that look normal?
Yeah, I wonder where those match up to, man. Like test some of that rock and some of the other rocks that are more north or whatever.
Yeah, it's South
That,
Australia. That was
oh,
connected to
south?
Antarctica.
Whoa, that's south. That's crazy. Is that like a defrosted ice wall?
I don't know, man. That's wild, though, right?
Yeah, that looks like the ice wall just defrosted. No joke.
Look how sheer that is.
That is absolutely stunning. Man, that's blue.
If what we're told was correct, and you had millions and billions of years, how come their coast doesn't look like the one in Virginia?
Yeah, seriously.
Right? Wouldn't that have worn down?
Mm-hmm.
And something with all that beating of that water over billions of years? Maybe that's BS.
That looks like that was ripped off of something.
Yeah, that looks like it broke off.
Clear as day. Anybody who's played with Play-Doh or ate a ice cream like sandwich has
What
seen
about, like-
what it looks like when you tear it away.
What about like the cliffs in Dover, England? Those are pretty wild. Like that crap right there, bro.
Oh wow. Is that the one with all the grass? Yeah, with the grass up there. That's the English Channel, isn't it?
Yeah, isn't that wild?
That chalky kind of, that's not the ones that tie to the other one, it's the other side of it, but the Appalachians, is it? Where the mountains match directly from the ones
That's
over there?
sick, dude.
That looks so cool. I gotta tell you, that's like it. They should.
That
It's
looks
like a
like
gol-
that comes from The Lord of the Rings.
Yeah, that's like Abba's golf course.
I mean,
the way
just
it, like,
just
kinda has
straight
that
white
feel.
cliffs.
So pretty.
Yeah, something about that just says that broke off of someplace. Dude, look at that.
Whoa.
Does that look normal? So yeah, point being, I guess those maps, when you see stuff connected, then you see geography that looks like that, topography. You're like, well, that certainly could have broke off someplace.
Because the one I was trying to pull it up, a list of them that are out there. I'd asked ChatGPT to see if there was any other ones than the ones I knew. All I knew about was the Appalachians, but one scientist, it was one of the things that when I was getting into that, I think brother Jason Jack was the one doing that, and it got me onto that kind of thinking. And he basically started showing like how they had tested rock from both sides of the ocean and proven that it was the same exact rock. Dover, England, and Cap Blanc, Nez in France, the chalk match shown by continuous upper Cretaceous chalk traced with the channel tunnels, boreholes, and geophysics. Engineers picked the same chalk subgroup to tunnel because the beds line up across the strait. That's mind-blowing. Giant Causeway, North Ireland, in Scotland. There's all those. There was one that went across the Atlantic, isn't it? Yeah, Appalachians in eastern North America, and the Caledonides or Donites in Scotland and Norway and Greenland. That's just mind-blowing right there, that one. The entire orogenic belts reconnect. Structural trends, rock ages, and tectonic history line up across the entire Atlantic. That's so cool. That shows that, like, for sure, they did rip apart from each other and separate. The question is when.
Yeah, check it out. So this is that place in France.
Wow. That's
Yeah.
amazing. That's like the gunner stuff with the strata. It's just when they start testing those side by side, man, just the look of these things are.
Isn't it? So could we not conclude that if you see these maps and they look like they're together in a certain time period, and then people say, "Oh, when did the mountains and the islands move out of their places?" And you're like, what about that?
Yeah, seriously.
Could that not be evidence that it did already happen? Because again, we don't have a map from 70 AD. So we don't know what the land masses look like then.
And if the hills waxed low and the mountains, ran away, and the islands fled away, and things like that. Like, what does it look like when a hill or a mountain waxes? Like, what if you had a 50,000 or 75,000 Himalayan mountain, and it just disintegrated from insane heat, like from heat that only comes from heaven, and melts it. Because I mean, the Grand Canyon is just a perfect depiction of like if a big titan was playing with Play-Doh and a flamethrower, like down there, like melting, literally melting the mountains, and they dry and freeze back up as the water goes over them, you know. But you see that all over the world, and then think like, what would it look like if a 50,000, like I think I pulled it up last time when we were looking up the map of the West Coast. It looks like the world's biggest landslide just destroyed, like in wreck that whole West Coast all the way
Or
through
if it was
there.
just
All
underwater.
yeah, like or that too. You could have had like that could have been like we're massive, or like what they said, like a big tsunami style came through there and just cracked through and just leveled it out there. But if a 50,000 foot mountain was a 50,000 foot mountain, what are the ranges next to it like? You know, 35, 40, you know, 1,000, 30,000. I mean, compared to ours, like Shastas and different things like there's much smaller ranges around certain things. But if you had them that were like 50 and 60,000, and then the lower ones were 10,000, 20,000 below that, and they all wax low together, what would that do? Because if you look at the West Coast all the way up through, it looks pretty horrific, like what happened with some rock and desert and stone. You go to the East Coast, it's lush and beautiful, full of landscapes, but then you have the Great Lakes stuff, even like I brought up about Mind Unveiled, and he talked about just all the different accounts from the 17 and 1800s. You can see with the floods there all the way down through the South. And then you look at the landscape and how much it would have been changed. But
It's funny. So I was just for Thanksgiving, we were doing Thanksgiving with my wife's side, and they live out in the Shenandoah area, like Shenandoah National Park, right over there.
mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, we were commenting, like, as we've been going back and forth to the different coasts, and just the mountains out east don't look anything like the mountains out west. So that's why, like, yeah, it's Charlottesville area, very beautiful in the fall. I guess we kind of hit it a little too late because the colors were most of the trees were bare, you know, when we got there. But yeah, like when you think about how like the mountains in like the Blue Ridge Mountains and Appalachian Mountains, yeah, they're all lush and green. And it's not like there's no green mountains out west, but I mean, like for the most part, it just looks like this does not look normal.
Mm.
This looks very intense. It just looks very awesome. But yeah, seeing them the way that you see them out east, of course, they're smaller too, but they don't look as scary. I mean, I think they look scary out west because it looks like, what the heck happened to this place? And so, yeah, I think that's the interesting part is that when you see on those maps and you see land in places where there's not land now, and then you see places where there is land not showing land, it kind of makes sense that the water's going somewhere.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's some displacement of the water. So maybe that's why certain things kind of elevate and some things do not.
Yeah, Florida, we always talk about that. The Gulf in Florida, you can just see it on the map where it looks like water over a very shallow area there. Here's one for you based on what you were just saying. The Scandinavian mountains that connect to the Atlantic, across the Atlantic to the Appalachians that we were talking about. I asked if any of these mountains, I just did that one to start, were taller on one side than the other. And it says yes, like the highest peak you got on the Appalachian side, on our side of the Atlantic, is 6,684 feet. And on that side, you do have up to 8,100 feet. So it's like you wonder if the East Coast of America was like where the smaller side kind of snapped off, and that's why you see the what you were just showing on the English side and the Ireland side and everything through there seems to be like
Mm-hmm.
starts out like not at the beach, right? Like it starts out at the mountain, and then kind of like what we see in California. California seems like it might have been like that too. Like, what if we did a little study on this and we go across from California to where their mountains are touching, and they probably tested those to China. Maybe China didn't let them, but you test the mountain from that side to this side. Maybe the China side is like really like vast and huge, and it broke off to California. You know, kind of.
Maybe it's connected to Lemuria, right?
Yeah,
There's that other
Lemuria, right?
supposedly
Yeah.
missing place out west. I mean, that's the thing. It's like the Pacific Ocean, like the ocean between California and Asia is pretty vast.
Big
Other
topic of
than
debate.
between Alaska and Russia. but the rest of it's
Yeah.
really big. So yeah,
Yeah,
there's a
the
lot. There's so much
3000.
mystery. I think that again, it comes down to the fact that how can you reliably trust a history that includes maps that are nonsensical, right? So if the maps are not accurate, then why do you believe the history is? Maybe the maps are accurate and the history's not. Again, I always say this, that it seems crazy to me that cartography would ever been such a just fly by the seat of your pants type deal. Oh yeah, just draw the maps however you want and put a sea monster here, go put Poseidon here riding a dolphin. It's totally fine. But yet, are sailors not using these maps to try to get places?
And the detail and accuracy, even to this day, like when you see some of the depictions of the cities that are still in place to this day, it is impeccable. Like you can't say that these guys were some slouches drunk in the pub and then they decided to go like finish their map, sloppy drunk like over here, and then
you need to add another Kraken over there.
Oh, that's funny. These guys did some. I'm talking. Some of these maps are. It's not the only map too that we saw that Antarctica is depicted without the. It makes you wonder about the whole ice things. Like, is it something?
Yeah, they
like
didn't. They supposedly didn't find Antarctica until like the 1800s. Of course, it's the 1800s.
Of course, yeah. Found it. Of course, you did find it. You didn't discover it. You found it. Again.
Right.
There was writings about it, and you went and found it. That's what you did. That's basically.
I guess that's the kind of is that the Kabbalah magic? Well, we didn't actually say we were the first people to get there. We just said we found it in 1800.
The Kabbalah effect
We
instead
didn't
of the
say we
Mandela.
were first.
It's not the Mandela effect. It's the Kabbalah effect now.
Yeah, it's the same thing where yes, Columbus discovered America, the place where a bunch of people already lived. Hey, I found this place. Everybody's looking around. It's like, what's he doing with that flag?
Yeah, right?
Hey, we're over
Like-
here.
Yep.
It's been discovered a while ago. Oh,
Like
no,
the
no,
Seattle?
no, be quiet.
Seattle's pictures get me the most, I think, when they have like they're saying like, oh yeah, we're unsettling it. They're like got like 150, 250 pound or foot high mounds of dirt, and in the background there's a skyscraper with clear as day lines that had to
Yeah.
been like, are these not power lines here? Are you guys gonna tell us that? And then the whole thing with like how they went to fossil fuel from fully electric back then, like the steamboats and all that stuff.
Oh, yeah,
like,
yeah. I got some stuff coming up for JT's mixtape about some trains and stuff, some of the train technology, borrowing from the Improbable Dreamer. But yeah, that was funny because I literally just did a podcast with Luminary Lighthouse. I connected with him on TikTok. And so I got a podcast over on his channel. And if you guys want to check that out, maybe I'll link it in here. But we were talking about Seattle, and those pictures that are so ridiculous that there's just massive dirt mounds. I mean, when I say massive, they look like they're about 100 feet tall. And then they have like a house on top of one. And then there's a house next to one. And you're like, what am I supposed to even be looking at? You're not telling me somebody actually built their house up on top of that dirt.
Yep.
It just looks like everything just, it's hard to even know
All
what's
by
true about that
itself.
picture. Like, what am I even looking at? All we know is it looks ridiculous.
Yep.
But anyways,
And
I
it's
think
still
that's
standing there.
enough for today. But
Yeah.
anyways, back to one last thing. Just think about it though. Yeah, those technocrats are going to put up this Prometheus statue potentially. I think they say that it's going to cost $400 and something million. The guys raised $5 so far. Would you be willing to donate any money so they could put a giant statue to Satan, or maybe Shimyaza over in Alcatraz? Alcatraz is another weird place where, again, that story doesn't make a lot of sense. They literally built this island thing for prisoners.
What was that, man? What was that place like? But back in the day, because if they're gonna build, if they would even place $400 million of anything on something, I mean, come on, you're talking about basketball stadium type stuff. When you're getting into like those are big figures. So if you're gonna go drop like, and there's a museum. What's in this museum? Is this kind of like what happened with a recent war when they went and found a certain museum over there and got a whole bunch of artifacts over there?
Yeah, they're maybe going to put a Holocaust museum at the bottom of it.
Oh my gosh. Oh man.
Yeah. No, but anyways, it is funny just to think, that $400 something million to build this statue there. People can't buy groceries these days and say, hey, you want to chip in for this giant statue to Satan? Nah.
Jeez.
I'm good.
I
Can you
could see
guys
him
kick
putting
me
it
some
up.
of that money, though?
The little bell shakers and stuff saying, hey, like, donate to Prometheus. We're about to put a shrine up for this guy.
Yeah, it's like the what's the Pawn Stars meme where they're like, "Hey, can we get some help with housing and groceries? Best I can do is a $450 million statue to Satan.
Yep.
How about that?"
Yep. Trade you that.
Pretty much. Well, anyways, guys, I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. Of course, we said we didn't get to as many biblical topics as we did, but we just kind of let it flow. But if you guys do have topics you guys want us to get to, I know that we will probably tease and maybe we'll have to get into the Septuagint here soon. I know next year I'm definitely going to start digging in soon. So, gosh, the year's almost over now. It's going to be like December when you guys see this.
Mm-hmm. That was I did a little document. So next week we can do the whole Hades thing because in what was it, guys? Proverbs 27:20.
Yeah,
I was sending this to
27:20.
JT about talking about Sheol and the comparison. Because if you use the Septuagint, you can extrapolate data different because you can look at what they would have used for the word in the Old Testament, find the verse in the Septuagint Old Testament, and then you can find that same word that is continuous all the way through the New Testament and everything as well. And you can find that the word for Sheol would be Hades, and then like Apollyon and Abaddon, but like Apollyon, they would have said like
Hades,
there. So
Zeus's
anyways,
brother.
yeah, so we can go through some of that next time. This was fun.
Absolutely, guys. But anyways, if you guys want to support this podcast, please check out Modern Roots Life, link in the description. And as always, really appreciate you guys watching. Love you guys. God bless.
Love you guys. Have a good night.